T-shirt on underneath. Is that bad?
You're
We're
good.
live.
Good. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Dual Ghost Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Skoga, joined by my West Coast co-host, Russ Rogers, and we are joined by two very special guests this morning, Melissa Mahoney and Dan Jenkin. Both of you,
No
thank you
S.
so much for being here. No S and Jenkin. Thank you so much for being here this morning. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Man, these are my West Coast homies right here, man.
I know.
Right here in Santa Cruz. This is awesome to have you both here. These two are two brilliant minds in the fish industry, and I am excited about today because not only do I play volleyball with Dan, but these guys, marine scientist Melissa Mahoney. Dan works for a company over just south of here and works in the UC system and expanding greatly into the schools, the universities, just about healthy eating, healthy diets, eating more fish. You know, it's what's Chick-fil-A, you know, eat more cows, eat more chicken. You know, the cows say eat more chicken. Dan is saying eat more fish. So we're glad to have you guys on Dual Coast this morning, and tell us what's going on in your life lately.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well,
Raising teenagers.
Yes. Personally, yeah. I have a 17-year-old son, and if any parents out there of teenagers are out there, my heart goes out to you in both all of the amazing things that they get up to and all of the scary things that they have access to and the world that they're in, and just the struggles of teenagers. It's we're in it, and Dan and I live together, and so he is a kind of friend and mentor to my son, and yeah, we're on that roller coaster right now. So personally, that's taking up a lot of space in my life, and I have kind of doubled down on learning about what parenting really looks like from uh, a wellness perspective, really a healthy perspective. How do I keep the focus on myself? And I know that I'm the only person that I can control out here in the world. So I've really been doubling down lately on that mantra, and working on my own accountability and how I show up, and then expecting that my son and other people in my life do the same. And I think that's kind of that's sort of a number one mantra that we can all think about as we move through our days, that might end up helping us get through it a little easier, to know that we have to be responsible for ourselves, and we can let everybody else be responsible for themselves.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Well, I know one of the things that you deal with for yourself, that, you know, from a healthy perspective, that both of you love to do, is when you go to Mex, you love to surf. And that is your opportunity to basically unwind, get out in the water, catch some incredible waves, and enjoy a healthy lifestyle. Dan, tell us about the latest wave that you've caught, whether it be here or down in Mex.
Yeah, I haven't been surfing enough lately, but I went on a trip to Taiwan a few weeks back and was not on my radar at all, but it is an amazing surf destination and subtropical. The water was almost 80 degrees, and a friend of mine told me the east coast of Taiwan is the Big Sur of Asia. So I was intrigued right away, and so into culinary arts right now, and seafood is my jam. And I was super excited just to expand my own perception of, how to live healthily in a totally different culture. I've traveled in Asia a little, not a lot, but it just opened my mind, and we got some great little waves. It was small, but wonderful people, and that feeling of tribe always exists anywhere you go in the world. Same with volleyball. I get in games in the middle of Paris and Savannah, Georgia, and anywhere I am, I've entered the water, entered the court, and made friends. So that's been a wonderful thing. But I just want to kind of touch on what Melissa said and bring it back to what we're talking about today, because we're both in our 50s, and the theme of, for me, slow living has become really important because number one, my body hurts a lot. I still go hard. We're doing outrigger paddling, surfing, and beach volleyball. For me, that's like the triple crown of growing old in a healthy way and a
Yeah.
really positive lifestyle with great communities all around each of those sports. And it hurts my soul, my ego, my heart to admit that I am getting a little bit older, but it's okay to forgive yourself for not being the top performer perhaps that you used to be, and work on the inside stuff, the heart, the mind, the ability to control your emotions and your reactions in the midst of a storm and really challenging situations lately. So yeah, slow living and really kind of dialing in the essence of the source of happiness, which is different than contentment. We're learning
Oh,
that
yeah.
nuance as
We,
well.
we had that discussion recently of the difference between being content and being happy, and how in I think especially in the States, we're on this endless search for, well, if I can just have this job or get this car or be in this spot, I'll be happy. And I think in our relationship, we have come to know that just being content, being able to be content with the mess, the joy, the sorrow, the all the stuff is actually such a beautiful I mean, because it's reality.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a real high and that's great, but what goes up must come down. And so
Yeah.
I'm kind of enjoying the middle path
That's
a little
exactly
bit.
right. Well, it brings you it drops you right into the moment
Yeah.
every time. For me, uh obviously I reminisce. I've had some great times with good friends and I look forward to a lot of great things in life, but I love my moment right now with you two, you three. It's a practice that we lose sight of. So that's been a
100%.
really good rooting and kind of a grounding experience that's new to me because yeah,
That's awesome.
trying to use this mind a little bit better now.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's great. That's great. Melissa and Dan, tell us a little bit about what you both specialize in over there in California. What do you both do? Give us a little background real quick.
You first.
Um, okay, what do I do? Well, I am a trained marine scientist, so I came to California I grew up in Colorado, so I was a landlocked kid who loved the ocean. So I eventually made my way out here and studied marine science, and then have kind of made my career path surprisingly from the marine sciences into conservation work, into policy work, into really getting at the solution of sustainable fisheries and sustainable seafood by realizing that it's as much about understanding the marine system as it is about understanding the human system, and that you know some conservation efforts try and remove or protect or keep people out of a certain area. I think what I've learned is that people need to eat and they need to feed their families. And if there's a situation where they don't have any other choice or they're not engaged in the management of the resource, they're just going to do whatever they want or need to do. And so I took a kind of a surprising an unexpected turn in my career path about 15 years ago to become more of a social scientist. And I now run a nonprofit. I work with fishermen and policy leaders and fishery managers and all kinds of folks to help get at this question of how can we have a thriving seafood economy here in Monterey Bay? How can we have a viable commercial fishery, which in a lot of people's minds, when I say commercial fishery, they think of, like, I don't know, big industrial fishing vessel or something like that. But what I'm talking about are many small boat individual, fishermen and their families, small operations, which we still have here on the California coast, just a little bit left. And what I want to see happen is, that seafood access is tied to that commercial fleet. If we are, not everybody has a boat or a fishing pole or the ability to go catch their own seafood, and that is our last wild fish. That is a public resource that all Americans own, have access to, out to 200 miles. And our commercial fishermen are, I believe, the best stewards of that resource.
Mm.
And so I'm working with them, every day, every week to try and figure out how do we balance conservation with commerce so that we can, have our fish landed here and have less food miles on our seafood protein and nourish our community. So that's what I do.
Wow.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seafood royalty right here.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I've never worked on a fishing boat. I tried when I was out of college. I tried to get on a fishing boat as an observer, a scientific observer, and that was back in the early 90s. And I don't think they really liked to let women on boats in Alaska. It was kind of rough. And anyway, I don't have that, but I've spent a lot of time around the docks and talking with fishermen, and so I have some understanding, but I really lean on them to understand the complexities of what's happening out there. And I have a ton of respect as a scientist, hearing what they have to say about the system, because they might not have all the language that fancy science has, but they know what's going on out there.
yeah.
And they are needed in the management conversation. So that's a
Mm.
lot of what we do too, is try and engage them, help them be able to go to meetings, to know when meetings are, to do trainings if they can, and to help reimburse their costs for going to meetings, because nobody's paying for them to go to a meeting like they're paying a conservation group to go to a meeting.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah, and the thing that connects us is this experience, and I learned everything I know about the fishing industry from Melissa, and then of course was introduced to all the right people that got me into my position now at Real Good Fish based in Moss Landing. And what we experience is, hey, it's one thing to catch a fish, which is hard, life-threatening, really challenging to find the fish. It's not like you go to a shelf and pull something off. They're swimming away from you all the time.
Yeah.
Once you get it in, it's a whole set of other problems, and that has to do with processing it, getting it to the back door of a kitchen. There are so many steps in between where that can fall apart, logistically speaking. And then for me, I'm trying to get this last wild protein, this amazing source of nutrition in so many other ways, onto the trays of children's lunch plates. And that's a whole different challenge just to get it on the tray. Then they have to look at it, smell it, want to eat it. Then they have to eat it and enjoy it so much they want it again.
Right.
So we're competing with nuggets and burgers and pizza, and I feel like I'm cracking the code right now as to how to appeal to that very very complex landscape. But Melissa does this work that ties it all together, from fishermen to chefs to policymakers, and everything in between. And that is a very delicate alchemy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back for the last, and you can fill in the detail on this, but I believe for the last 2 years, maybe 3, there has been a limited time on fishing for salmon here in the Pacific
Yes.
Coast, right?
Yes.
How does that impact your business and what you guys are doing? And I believe they've opened it up this year. I don't know if there's parameters that they've set on it for this year, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah, give us an idea on the impact that makes on what you're doing here up and down the coast.
Yeah. I'll talk about the big picture, and then Dan can
Sure.
talk about just from a business perspective. But Yeah, the commercial king salmon fishery has been closed since 2023. So yeah, the fleet, it's a $4 to $5 million industry here. So it is huge when it's closed. Not only do the fishermen can't get paid, but all of the services that they need, all of that landing and receiving, the harbor, the ports that they're landing the fish in, they pay wharfage, and there's activities and fuel being bought, and all of those things not happening for 3 years. There, it was declared a disaster, federal disaster, and that's always to unleash funding to help the folks who are affected get through it. But I will say that that process takes so long. So the 2023 season, so almost 6 years ago, they just got paid over, I think they just got
Wow.
paid like maybe 4 months ago for that season. They still haven't gotten paid anything for 2024. And last year is just a joke. Like they're not gonna, probably not gonna get anything. So the protection around, sort of like farmers, farmers have bad crop years, and in the farm bill, they've had lots of representation. They get help when that sort of stuff happens. The fishermen generally don't. And so they have gone into other fisheries. Like there was a when they can't catch salmon, they catch a lot of halibut. And then we halibut's great, California halibut's great, but you can only bring in so much, and then you have a supply glut, and they're not making money on that either. Some of them hung it up for a while and went and did trade jobs on land. Some of them sold their boats and got out. I'm working on a report right now where we're looking at trends in our commercial fisheries in Monterey Bay, and you can just watch just this and many other things, just the downward slide of the people involved in fishing here. It's really hard. So there's on the harvest side, there's that, and then on the shore side, when those fish aren't coming in, what's happening in the market is the restaurants and the markets, and they still need to offer seafood to people. So they're sourcing it from Alaska, they're sourcing it from Chile, where there's a ton of farmed salmon that isn't that great environmentally, but
Mm.
people want their fish. And unfortunately, it's really hard for the consumer to be like sort of up and educated and knowing all these things. And so I don't blame the consumer for, buying whatever it is, but it's sort of, once king salmon kind of loses its place in the market, it's often a little hard to get that back. And that's another reason why the Monterey Bay Fisheries Trust is the organization that I run. I forgot to mention that. But we are promoting fresh local seafood. And so when salmon returns, we are doing a lot of effort to help the consumer remember and recognize that it's super special for us to have local salmon. And we're not out of the water yet. We're not out of the woods yet with salmon. There's still a lot of struggles, and I want to make sure your listeners know that it's not about overfishing for salmon. Salmon start their lives in the rivers, and then they come out to the ocean to become adults and feed, and then they go back up the river to spawn. And in California and in our Sacramento Valley watershed especially, the rivers have been damaged by dams. The flows have been diverted to the Central Valley for agriculture. There's just all kinds of river policies that have hurt the salmon's population in the rivers. And so we need the state, and that there's just sort of this idea that now in drought years, there's kind of not enough water for the fish and the farmers. And that is really tricky for California politics. But those of us who care about salmon, we're making our voices heard in Sacramento and making sure that river policies reflect the need to protect salmon. Because can you imagine California without salmon?
No.
Yeah.
It's it's possible. They're strange. So that is a side of it, and that's the conservation side. So it's all these different dynamics, the economics of it, the disaster funding, the consumer choices, and recognizing when it comes back, and then how do we make sure that we have good river policies to keep salmon coming down the rivers and going back up the rivers.
Mhm. Wow.
Very well explained.
Yeah, very well explained.
Yep. And this is the first time in so many years, and people are out there just so excited catching fish. Part of the problem is that, we're dealing with a competitive market. And so I hear a lot of the things that she's working on and the inner workings of it. And I kind of translate that into my own world, which is, well, how do I get people to understand it? How do I get them to really make this balance between land and sea more salient? And what she's talking about is the term blue economy, or the working waterfront. When you stay local and sustainable, you're putting money back into the community, into our working economy on the water. And really, for us in Monterey Bay, this is our identity. This maritime tradition, this family fishing generational experience is one of the most important things that draws people here. Cannery Row, Chipino, the seafood experience is one of those very unique flavors that we have. And that's what I love about seafood. It's a little bit different on the East Coast. Every town you go to, every region has their own thing, right? And that's based on what's found in their waters there. And so it is our identity. I feel really, really strongly about that. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is plant the seed with the next generation.
Hmm.
I want the kids to meet a producer who puts the food on the table and tie that experience to the source of their nutrients, of their daily food.
Hmm.
And once you do that, you have this passion, this connection to the source of your food. And what does that do? Just like fishermen, it makes you want to protect it and look after it. And we talk about this word sustainability a lot, but not a lot of people know exactly what it means. It is about five faceted to explain, how this protects the environment and the ecosystems that are being fished, but also pass it on to sustain the industry, the experience down to the next generation. And that's really tough for fishermen. They're up against every challenge in the books. They want to fish, but they're meant to be marketers, salespeople, lawyers. They have to understand all this policy landscape.
Mechanics. Don't forget
Mechanics.
mechanics.
Yeah. And you're out there risking your life. I mean,
Yeah.
this is one of the most noble experiences and jobs I think that exists on the planet. My dad was a commercial shell fisherman doing mussels, so I grew up with bloody knuckles, in the intertidal zone. I learned how to forage from a very young age because he'd take us out to a remote island and bring no food and just say, hey, you boys, get down there and find food. Snails.
Child abuse. I don't know.
I can see it now. I can see it.
Hog Island, the mouth of Tomales Bay, going out to Hog Island, where the great whites breed and feed. We didn't care. We didn't know. I didn't know. But it's that connection to the source, not just of your food, but I mean, we're 70% water, salt water. There's something that comes, surfers will all tell you the same sort of story, that it's a calming feeling. It's like a Zen experience. You have to block out everything just to focus on what's happening in the water, because there's current, there's wind, there's sharks, there's big waves, there's rocks, there's other people. And it becomes just such an essential life experience to have this connection to the water. And it
Don't
has to
forget
do
the
with
deep
wellness
canyon.
too.
Don't forget the
That's
deep canyon,
that's
right?
Yeah.
good point. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, together she teaches me and I do my little simple computations in my mind and like, oh, that would taste good. And, I'm experimenting a lot in the kitchen, but working with kids, getting their hands on the food and understanding that this, you can meet a farmer at the farmer's market, but fishermen are a little bit more elusive. You,
Yeah.
you don't meet a lot of fishermen. And when you have that direct experience, the land and sea experience, in particular, that's one of the things that I'm working on. She's working on it more than I am, but we have a partner called Sea Harvest down in Moss Landing, and the Dyerly family, third generation, is already on the water at 8 years old, 10 years old, getting salty. But they're grinding up the fish carcasses and the waste and turning it into a fertilizer.
Mm.
That's an incredibly nutrient dense product that goes back into the ground to our nearby farms here. And guess what? We love it because that water, that runoff comes right into the bay, and they're not using a lot of chemicals and nasty products that pollutes our
Mm.
waters.
Yeah.
We have this last link, this regenerative link that creates a beautiful cycle, and it feeds each other. So that land and sea connection is one of the stories that is most prominent on the tip of my tongue these days.
Mm.
Wow. Wow. Interesting.
Great education, man.
Yeah, great education.
Yeah,
You
let's
brought,
eat.
yeah, there you go. You brought up an interesting point before when you go to these schools and you try to instill in these kids, the nutritional benefits of fish and what it does for you. And I know it's probably hard to convey that message to children because they probably look at fish as kind of like, all right, I'm really not used to this or something like that. Most people look at it and they say, okay, it's full of protein. What would you say are some of the other underrated nutritional benefits of fish that probably people overlook?
Well, I'll start with omega-3s.
Yep.
I mean, that breaks the blood-brain barrier instantly. You get that in your body and your mind comes alive. It's very good to combat ADHD. Really helps students focus after lunch. I get tired. I want to take a nap. Kids are probably similar. There's trace minerals. There's anti-inflammatory properties for the joints. We're putting a black cod jerky out there. It's not on the menus yet, but it's like a smoked fish jerky. Needs little work, but we got a pineapple tamari flavor that's out of this world, and it is
Mm.
higher in omega-3s than salmon.
Wow.
So it also promotes serotonin in the brain. So you're talking about high energy, focus, happiness, pain-free. I want to get it in the bodies of athletes. Like a grab and go, they have what's called a supper pack. It's like a 4 o'clock, 3, 4 o'clock sometimes in the end of the day. Sometimes that's the last meal that people get before they
Mm.
go home. So, that's one thing. Omega-3s is easy, but there's trace minerals of all sorts.
Yeah, the trace minerals, like selenium, is one that has been linked to helping with depression and anxiety.
Mm.
So that's, I'm I'm actually referencing a website of a group that did a nutritional study on several species of West Coast rockfish and flatfish that are commonly found up and down the coast. And so, yeah, her website has just a lot of great information. But yeah, like Dan said, it's the omega-3 fatty acids, the DHA and EPA. It's selenium, it's all the trace minerals and the protein to fat ratio. I'm trying to grab it for a couple species, but I can't seem to find it. But um, they did a comparison across like chicken, beef, pork, spinach, which is one of the highest protein leafy greens that you can have, and seafood. And so for the when a couple of these species of seafood are analyzed for their protein to fat ratio against beef, pork, and chicken, the seafood is leaner protein with the fat, and the fat is good fat. So it just I want to encourage any of your readers who are really health conscious and looking at diet hacks. Seafood is just it's such a powerhouse, and the website that if you're on the West Coast, There are similar species on the East Coast, but for the West Coast, you can look up the nutrition facts for this at Positively Ground Fish.
Mm.
They did they did a full nutritional analysis a few years ago, and they have, good data on the nutritional content of something like 12 of our main species. Ground fish simply means the fish that are caught on or near the bottom. That's just what that term references. And you also have a ground fish fishery out in New England. You have your cod and your haddock and your flounders and all of that. And I would assume that there's a similar nutritional profile going on out there. But I don't know where the data are for that. But Positively Groundfish is an organization that's been working for a few years now to try and revitalize and raise back up these species that were lost due to another federal fishery disaster that happened 25 years ago, when that was a fishery that they were fishing the stocks too hard, and there was some habitat damage, and it was completely transformed, and it's now one of the most sustainable fisheries we have. But again, they lost market share, and they're trying to get that back, and they're up against cheap white fish like tilapia and pollock from Alaska, and things that are again, without the nutritional content and the consumer education, people generally look for price.
Mm. Mhm.
So yeah, those are some of the nutritional benefits, and yeah, I encourage folks to go to Positively Groundfish and check it out for themselves.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, and when you think about the fact that seafood is the most traded commodity on the planet,
Mhm.
and think about why everybody has water, not everybody, so much waterfront, you're going to extract your food from what's right in front of you if you can. That is a huge benefit to our industry. It also is a challenge because what she's talking about is important, but you can easily get super bogged down in the details and the issues. I understand that, and I'm talking to younger people who may not want to hear all that. So what I do is I try to cut through it with an experience, and that experience is touching it, making something delicious to go on top of it. I'm working a lot with sauces right now, and trying to get this experience happening in a way that becomes more vital, more direct, and more immediate in that way. So what we're up against is a market awareness, and for me, it's just simple. I'm implanting an idea, an experience, because I had this when I was a young kid, and you become your parents at some point. And I waited 50 years to become my father, but this is the work that I bet he was dreaming that I would take on someday.
Mm.
And it's just so gratifying, I think, to have this continuation process where we're empowering a next generation to eat well, to protect our tradition, our maritime history here, to have a direct relationship with the ocean or the land. I don't want to exclude farmers and agricultural producers. It's sort of ironic because when I go into these situations, there's a lot of talk about organic, sustainable, regenerative, but wild protein, sustainable seafood is not in the conversation very often.
Mhm.
So, for example, Melissa's meeting with the representative's assistant, Alex Padilla, one of our two California senators today.
Mm.
She is having big conversations with policymakers at the highest levels. We happen, the founder owner of Real Good Fish, Alan Lovewell. If you're listening, Alan, what up? Love you, bro. Total genius in so many ways. Has a master's in environmental policy. He was a commercial fisherman. Alan and his beautiful wife Jen, they run Real Good Fish, and Alan happens to know the person who helped co-author the appropriation funds for the brand new Department of Seafood that was just created a few weeks ago under the USDA. So they're only I think one person in that department because they only have $500,000 budget right now. But He took them out fishing. 3 people from the USDA. We're talking to the people who run this brand new department of seafood and asking questions. What do you need? Do you need data? Do you need stories? Do you need interviews of directors of nutrition who I'm working with that run the super co-op, 249 school districts in California that collectively have more purchasing power than any restaurant chain in America.
Mm.
And I think de facto the world, probably. But this is power, purchasing, procurement, as we call it in the industry, is power and influencing people to make these types of choices that, again, honor the tradition, the management of these fisheries, the balance, this delicate balance that Melissa is really helping to maintain and push forward. That's really what we're up against, and that affects our diet, our health, our wellness, in so many ways, very directly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going out and working with some great chefs at the universities, right? You're going up
Yep.
and down the coast. What are some of the things that you're learning from these chefs who have been doing this stuff? What are you learning from them, and what are they learning from you
Mm.
as you're going in to really kind of impact these universities? What the students are going to be, eating more of on a regular basis?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, universities, hospitals, K through 12s, this is our program that we call bait to tray. Tray being the scaled up cafeteria level. So we're talking about big numbers, thousands and thousands of meals a day. And that's difficult, number one, to do in a way that's tasty. Number two, that is sustainable because, when you get up to that level, you're dealing with competitive marketing landscapes that drive the cost down, and the questionable practices come into play there because you're talking about farmed salmon from Chile, which is high density, antibiotics pumped in to keep disease out. So many things. We won't go down that rabbit hole, but I'm lucky that a lot of these chefs are well trained. They're from Cordon Bleu, from the CIA, the other CIA, the Culinary Institute of America, which is the most respected culinary institute that we have domestically here, and highly trained, couple Michelin star chefs. I work with the guy named Daryl Valor from Hayward, who has worked in 3 Michelin star restaurants in San Francisco. He runs the Hayward Unified School District culinary and nutritional experience for 50,000 meals a day, I think. It's huge. So I learned from them how to scale up to that volume level. They learned from me a little bit more of the story, where it comes from, how to connect that to an experience that they tell to their students.
Mhm.
I get there and they ask me questions sometimes. At the university level, they get involved. They have classes that are working with the chefs, with us directly, gathering data, feedback, telling this story about culture. And Dan, I think you mentioned something that was, it sparked the idea in my head. How do we actually get people to like seafood, kids in particular? I think it's a myth that kids don't like seafood because they're used to fish sticks.
Yeah.
Who likes a fish stick, bro? I mean, I don't want a fish fillet, a McFillet, whatever it's called. Um, what the lucky thing is that we have here is we're a soup, baby. We're multicultural. We're California. I think the example of this melting pot and honoring all of our backgrounds, all of our stories, all of our traditions. Who doesn't love a good taco? I mean, you go to ceviche, then you talk about curries. Now we're talking about Vietnamese rice bowls. I'm speaking the language of their grandparents. What feels good at home? What feels comfortable? What are you used to? I'm not going in there saying you need to try this dish. I ask, what do you like? What do you feel comfortable with? And then we riff on it. We work together. I go into these kitchens and I look at what equipment they have. which tells me how fast, how much, what's the method of cooking, and we adapt. And that's kind of what the game is here, is this sort of custom solution almost, where we go into Santa Cruz or San Diego or Lodi. I'm at these different places that have different components of cultures and languages and ethnic experiences. But guess what? It's the white kids who tell me that's not spicy enough. I want more jalapeno in my ceviche. And I'm like, damn, because that's me. Growing
Bring
up in
on the heat.
growing up in Berkeley, in the 70s and 80s, I heard a lot of languages because of the university, the civil rights, freedom of speech, cultural revolution was in the air. And to me, that's what makes this a magical experience, is to uplift these stories and these real vital experiences. Because I think it was Mark Twain, he said, travel is fatal to bigotry and racism. So, we're I think empowering community by serving food that speaks to everybody.
I'll be right back.
Okay. She'll be right
Yes.
back.
Anyway, that's the connection to to answer your question, what have I learned? I'm a sponge. I grew up working at Chez Panisse restaurant with Alice Waters in the 80s because my dad sold seafood to the restaurant. And there was a bunch of us little boys, little ruffians, skateboarders and stoners. And, she turned us into gentlemen in a lot of ways and taught us how to eat properly, by introducing the concept of farm to table, from her years living in Provence in the south of France. And Mediterranean culture, you think about it, we're on that same latitude with France, Italy, Spain, Portugal, all the way across to the Middle East, Iran, Turkey. And then you go further east, you're talking about Taiwan. These are areas that have the same climate as we do. And you find olive trees in Taiwan, and you're like, well, that seems a little out of place. That's not Mediterranean. But it's actually correct, because this weather strip is very similar. So I think it ties us all together. I think food brings us together.
Yes.
I play this game with my students that I'm working with sometimes, like, food is ... What is food to you? And I've heard some crazy stuff, and it's exciting. So let's play it real quick. Dan and Russ. Dan first.
Yeah. So
Doppelganger.
Where's my hat?
So, I grew up in a very hardcore Italian culture. So to me, food means family. So it brings
Hear that a
everybody
lot.
together. We have certain dishes that we always make for specific holidays, certain, group gatherings, things like that. So to me, food is family.
Well, the Italians have an expression, and I've lived there, so I know. A tavola non si invecchia, which means at the table one never grows old.
Yep.
That's why they stay at the table for like 3-4 hours.
3-4 hours is very common in Italy. That's correct. And
it's where it happens.
Yeah.
What about you, Russ?
I would. So mine would be food is life / energy.
Energy. Like that.
Yeah, because when you think about food, it's what kind of food are we putting in our bodies? I went away from years ago. I went away from eating heavy lunches, because when you eat a heavy lunch, what is the immediate impact of your body in the next hour?
Nap time.
So finding something that I can eat at lunchtime that's going to energize me. So I kind of went to a grazing lifestyle about 13 years ago, and eating light. So when I'm, in the past, if I'm out working with the guys, and they're eating all of these tacos and they're eating hamburgers or whatever, big sandwiches, and I'm just snacking, I have energy. No. I have life at 1:00 in the afternoon for those last 3 hours on the job that I'm just going, where these guys are like, for that first hour, dragging. So food is life. Food is energy.
What about you, babe?
I I like what you said, Russ, is, food is energy. Food is medicine.
Yeah.
I've really been appreciating for myself over the last many years of what I put in my body. And it's interesting what you just said about don't have a big meal in the middle of the day, because I've been increasingly studying the science of Ayurveda.
Mm,
It's an Indian. It comes from India and from the Vedic texts where yoga comes from. And Ayurveda is essentially the art and science of living well. But in the study of Ayurveda, the we each of us has a type of constitution that can get out of balance, and so foods are directly associated with helping each of us in our own constitution be in balance. And interestingly, when you said don't eat a big meal in the middle of the day, um, in the Ayurvedic tradition, you're meant to eat your biggest meal when the sun is highest in the sky,
mm, hmm.
because it's about digestive fire and solar fire and heat and energy, like helps us to move, versus in a lot of our cultures people eat late at night or they have a huge meal at dinner, and our bodies have trouble digesting all that
Yeah.
stuff. There's also the idea of intermittent fasting, which I'm sure you guys have talked about, but the idea that if we give our bodies a good, like at least 10, 12, sometimes 16 hours, if you're really into it, to not be digesting anything and to
Right.
give itself a rest. And so anyway, it's interesting because we can learn all these different cultural and scientific nutritional strategies, but at the end of the day, it sounds like you found something that totally works for you, regardless of whatever.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
truly, listening to our own bodies of what we put in there, and having the patience and the awareness to listen. Because I think I mean, I'm guilty of this. Like, I will sit at my desk and eat my lunch while I'm working.
Yeah.
And our bodies, our minds, if we're doing something else while we're eating, our mind doesn't really get that we're eating.
Mm,
So this is another Ayurvedic principle, is that one thing at a time, slow it down, like
Yeah.
take a break, like get the food in front of me and smell it, and be grateful for all the hands that went into preparing it, and how the sun and the rain, just all, like taking that moment of gratitude,
Mm.
so that my mind and my body can be like, ooh,
Yeah.
we're about to eat, like let's get those digestive juices flowing, let's get
Mm.
ready. And then there is actually greater assimilation of the energy, the life force that is in the foods that we have,
mm,
when we do that. So yeah, just to
Mm.
riff on what you said,
I
to
like
me
that.
food is medicine,
yes.
and it's also about how we consume it. If we consume it with intention, with gratitude, it helps to get in there
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there are times that I'm just downright hungry at lunchtime,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I
Give me
will
that.
eat.
Give me that super carnitas burrito.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
know.
hear you.
I really love this. I think one of the things we're talking about here is it hasn't been spoken for, in the mainstream very much lately for some reason, but slow food as opposed to fast food,
Mm-hmm.
taking your time. And to me, I don't do it often enough, but I really try to teach kids this. And it reminds me, use every sense. One of the things that we're struggling against in the school cafeterias is, number one, they don't even see the food yet and they can smell it. It's got to smell good. Number
Yes.
two, got to look good. I'm
Mhm.
working a lot with sauces and garnishes. And, one of the things kids told me is food is fancy.
Yeah.
They like fancy food. If you serve them something that looks like a dish they might get in a restaurant, and I'm not saying school lunch people can produce restaurant food at scale. It's very difficult. We do what we can, and then all of a sudden we're doing the impossible. But gotta look good, gotta smell good, and then I actually close my eyes sometimes and listen. and like the crunch, how it hits the tooth, how it feels in your mouth. Really take the time to use all of your senses, because then it becomes a more multi-dimensional experience that I think is profound. Food is medicine is absolutely true too. In fact, at the CIA, at the Culinary Institute of America in Napa last week, they had the 3-day University of California wide experience called Food is Medicine, Food is Health.
Mm.
And all the leaders of all the top California universities are there, sponsored by Stanford School of Sustainability and the Harvard School of Public Health. And we're working in hospitals in the Santa Clara County right now. We're trying to get in more because guess what? You're in a hospital trying to feel better and recover from something, and they're feeding you crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prisons, hospitals, and schools get the worst food right now.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's at scale. It has to be affordable. It has to be dependably delivered by Cisco or Aramark or any of these big trucks you see running around. They don't have the time and energy to get the best quality food.
Yeah.
It's more expensive. It's harder to deal with. You have to know how to cook it properly. And so these are the gaps that we're trying to bridge. Come in there and work, roll up my sleeves, make an easy dish like ceviche or fish tacos or a curry rice bowl. And all of a sudden you're curing sick people and the families that are visiting them and the staff that is curing them and serving them. So food is all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't accidentally cooking fish, but I was cooking fish one day and I was a knock at my door and one of my friends came up and we were yapping away. And all of a sudden it was one of those moments. Oh no, the fish, run back into the kitchen, well, it had crusted the outer layer of the fish.
Ooh.
And I got to tell you, that was probably one of the best fish I've ever done. So now I accidentally crisp that outer layer because that crunch that you talk about.
Yeah.
Oh, and ling cod. We haven't talked about ling cod.
Ooh.
Love me some ling cod. It doesn't
Love some
smell,
ling.
but the flavor is just, and it doesn't take much.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the problem, Russ, is that every fish species is different. They
Yes.
perform differently. They cook better in certain ways. It takes a little bit of time to figure that out. And don't overcook your halibut, bro. You don't want to be serving that dry halibut. And yet on the other hand, black cod or sable fish, as it's known, gets buttery and caramelizes and gets juicier the longer you cook it sometimes. So, it takes a little bit of experience.
Thank goodness that we have this thing called the internet where you can
I
look all this
know.
stuff up.
I
Or in our
know.
house,
Yes.
Interdan. We thanks to Real Good Fish and her fishing buddies, we eat a lot of fish.
Yep.
And we get a chance to experiment and get better at it.
Yeah, and he does not do anything with recipes. He just plays with stuff, and then he asks me like, well, what do you think about this? How should we do this miso black cod? And I'm thinking this, and I'm like, well, should we look at a recipe first, maybe before we so he like feels his way, and then I like to look at a recipe and then kind of do it my way. So we have a fun adventures in the kitchen a lot.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, I mean, it's born out of necessity. I'm used to pulling something in and camping and, having a limited amount of tools and spices or whatever. Not anymore. My traveling kitchen is pretty dialed in. It's sweet now, but
I bet it is.
you do what you can with what you have. And then St. Francis of Assisi said this, do what you can, do what needs to be done. And then all of a sudden you're doing the impossible. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to inject the last wild protein. Think about that. The last wild protein on the menu, it's most schools.
The last wild food, period, is seafood, is our fish.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not out there hunting down a wayward traveling cow. They're not. I mean, we do get some pigs wild maybe, but it's a unique experience and a story that we hope the new Department of Seafood is going to tell this story in our favor and really share experiences that get people understanding our local bounty. This is what we have right
Yeah.
here.
Sure.
Well, as you have quoted the great St. Francis of Assisi, I'm going to quote the great comedian Bill Burr. And, he talks about how we got to do away with the internet. We just waste so much time and we're just scrolling. And he said, one night I wasted 6 hours trying to figure out how to trap a beaver.
Woo! Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Anyway, I know Dan's got one last question for you.
Yeah. So this one's for the both of you, actually. So we finish up every show pretty much with a quote or a saying that we like to ask our guests what it means to them. And that saying or that quote is that wellness is not about perfection. It's about progress. What would you say that quote means to both of you?
I'm gonna have to get my
Gotta go
doppelganger
reverse.
hat on.
Yeah, for that.
What's up, twinning? You want to go first? Or you?
No, go ahead if you have something.
Yeah, I mean, it relates to that St. Francis of Assisi quote. Got to start somewhere. Just get amongst it, as the Australians would say. Just get in there. There's no wrong move. Get started.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's right.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, I would say that with each new day, there's a new chance. Many of us struggle with various forms of, habitual patterns, or maybe even a little addictive, whether it's food or that glass of wine at night or not drinking enough water, or there are little things that we can put into our day. Like I always drink a glass of warm lemon water in the morning, and now he does too, because he lives with me and that's what happens. But I just like to, it's not perfection. And I think the worst thing we can do is go through our day and not, do the healthy thing that we said we were going to do, and then beat ourselves up for it. So yeah, I would say just every day is a new day to make healthier choices.
Love it.
And to use like a sailing analogy, if a boat is trying to sail across the Pacific and hit Hawaii, if just 1 degree of changes that entire trajectory. So just one little thing, one little change each day changes a person's life towards health. So
Love it.
Amen.
Very well said.
Very well said.
Lemon water with honey in here.
There you go.
Nice.
So yeah, love that. Love that. I got to say in closing here, and Dan will wrap it up, but this has been a very, very good conversation, because we haven't, in the last almost year and a half since we started this podcast, we haven't had anything on a subject matter like this, and with two professionals that are in the same industry like yourselves. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on today and sharing, about the importance of eating healthy, eating right, eating fish, trying different ways, cooking it different ways, tying different ingredients to it, because fish is fun, and it is delicious, delicious food. So thank you both for coming on today and sharing your heart.
yeah, thanks for
sharing
having
your passion.
us.
Amazing.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more what we do, we're at MB Fish Trust. That's our handle.
Perfect.
And if you want to order fish from Real Good Fish, you can look up Real Good Fish.
Dan the man.
Thanks for calling me professional.
Absolutely, man.
It's been a while.
Well, wait, turn your hat back around. It looks
Yeah,
more
yeah.
professional.
There you go.
Love you guys.
Oh, man. Thanks so much.
Statement. Thank you both so much for being on today. This was
Thank
super
you.
informational. I hope people got a lot out of this. I'm sure they did. Thank you again, both of you. Please check us out at Dual Coast Podcast on all our social media handles. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. Please check out the Dual Coast store on our website with all our merchandise. We'll see everybody next week. Thank you both so much. Dan,
We'll see you Saturday in Santa Cruz for the summit.
SC. There
Let's
we
go.
You guys-
4:30.
Thank you again so much for listening. We'll see everybody next week.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.